Our guest today is the president of the Ford Motor Company Fund. He leads all philanthropic and community-related activities, community service-related activities. The Ford Fund's primary focus is education. Our guest today has been with Ford Motor Company for 22 years. He is a native of Detroit and graduated from the University of Detroit, Mercy. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of the Ford Motor Company Fund, Jim Vella. Jim?
Good afternoon. Are you awake? Good afternoon. Okay, always that's like the first thing that they teach you when you go to speaking school. Make sure you have a live audience. So it's always great to be here in Chicago. Just a short drive over from Detroit where I'm based. Lots going on in the city. I've had a chance to spend the last couple of days. I always enjoy your great restaurants here. I go home about 5 pounds heavier than when I came. I had my 19-year-old daughter with me. She certainly enjoyed your shopping. And you obviously have a lot going on in the city here, so you should be very proud of that and not take it for granted. I'm not quite as fond of some of your sports teams, being a Detroit sports fan, especially the Bears. And I was told by Bill Ford when I came here to make sure I completed the whole entire process of the speech before I left the stage so that it didn't get overturned later. So I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I'm going to carry my speech all the way back to my office on Friday, put it away, and then I'll know I have completed the process. So as I was getting ready, going over my remarks in the hotel room, my 19-year-old daughter, Casey, who's a junior at Western Michigan University, is, kind of always traveled with me on some events that I go to, and she's like, "What are you working on?" And I said, "I'm giving a speech," and she's like, "Again?" And she had her usual words of advice. "Whatever you do, Dad, don't embarrass the family and don't be boring." So for those of you who have 19-year-old or 20-year-old kids, for them to tell you not to be boring, that's like a bigger assignment than I've ever had at Ford. But I'll try, and if you ever meet Casey Vella on the streets of Chicago, please tell her dad was not boring, regardless of what you think of my remarks. Seriously, Ford and Chicago have really had a long history together over the years. The very first car that Henry Ford sold was a Model A made in 1903, and just 1 month after the company was incorporated, the buyer was from right here in Chicago, a dentist named Dr. E. Fenning. So if he's in the crowd today, thank you very much. The relationship between Ford and Chicago has thrived through the years. Probably the most recognized symbol of our partnership in the community is our assembly plant, which has operated here since its construction in 1924. And as a matter of fact, as of today, it's the oldest continually operating assembly plant that we have in our system. So that's quite a testament, I think, to the hard work of our employees there. And it currently employs 2,400 people. And they build our flagship Ford Taurus there and the Lincoln MKS, and soon they'll be building our all-new Ford Explorer and our new Ford Police Interceptors, which you'll see all over the country, replacing the Crown Victorias we have out there. Our Chicago Heights stamping plant supports the local assembly operation. And it also provides sheet metal parts to many of our other assembly plants across the U.S., and we employ about 800 people there. So it's really an exciting time for Ford here in Chicago. In total, there are 2,400 Ford employees, nearly 3,300 retirees, 173 dealers, 6,200 dealership employees that call this area home. You guys keep this up, you're going to pass what we have left in Michigan. The company has contributed, on top of that, the company has contributed more than $20 million to local charities in just the last 10 years. In fact, there's so much more going on with Ford here that I think you'll be surprised to hear how integrated our company has become in your community. I was asked to speak specifically today a little bit about corporate philanthropy and what role that plays in the current operating environment that we all face. So I thought first I'd start by just giving you showing you a video that'll give you a brief overview of what we do at the Ford Fund.
At Ford Motor Company, there is a heart behind the oval. We strongly support Hispanic higher education.
I want to thank the Ford Motor Company for impacting my life and believing in me.
More than 100,000 high school students have gained real-world experience in the classroom through the Ford Partnership for Advanced Studies. We're exposing today's youth to entrepreneurship to deliver tomorrow's leaders.
There is nothing more important than the safety of our customers and their families.
Ford Driving Skills for Life is training teens to become safer drivers. Corazón de mi Vida shows the community how to care for our most precious cargo. And Ford Ready Safe Drive Car Care Clinics are empowering women on the road. We partner with the Smithsonian Latino Center to help Latino youth become the next generation of leaders. We're part of the fabric of the local community, honoring heritage, culture, and providing social services. Each year, more than 10,000 Ford volunteers make a difference worldwide. Ford Motor Company is proud to put its heart behind the Latino community.
So I hope that gives you just an idea on a very high level of just part of what we do in terms of supporting our community. It's also important to talk for just a minute about why it's especially important in today's environment. Many of the communities that make up our nation are really struggling right now. They're battling a number of social issues that I'm sure that you all hear about every day, including hunger, poverty, and really a growing sense of apathy about what can be done to address some of these problems. I know there's a couple people here from Feeding America, which is based right here in Chicago, and they're one of our partners in terms of what we're trying to do to combat hunger in this country. And I'm going to use some of their statistics. Their last report says that last year, over 43 million Americans, that's about 14% of the people in our country, are living in poverty. That includes over 15 million children under the age of 18. That's almost 21% of the kids, or 1 out of 5. It's frightening to hear that. But if you think about it for a second, it's even more frightening that we're allowing it to happen. In 2008, the last year we have statistics on hunger, over 49 million Americans lived in households that are called food insecure. So basically, they don't know where exactly their next meal is coming from this week or next week. Just think about that. If you didn't know where your next meal was coming from later this week. And it's even worse in the African American and Hispanic communities. On top of that, over 8% of households with seniors, over 2 million households, are also considered to be food insecure. It's really impossible to escape the cycle of poverty when your stomach's empty and you don't know where your next meal is coming from. When you talk about education, according to America's Promise, another one of the partners that we work with on education, nearly 1 in 3 U.S. high school students fails to graduate from high school today, 1 in 3. And in large urban school districts, like Chicago and Detroit, for example, it's even higher. In Detroit, we have 40 schools where 90% of the kids are not graduating. They call them dropout factories. 90% of the kids who are enrolled as freshmen are not graduating high school. That's a tough number to swallow. And it not just affects those individuals and their families, but the country overall, including business, government, and communities. The Alliance for Excellent Education estimates that high school dropouts from the class of 2006 and 7 will cost the U.S. more than $329 billion in lost wages, taxes, and productivity over their lifetimes. Experts say those who drop out are more likely to be incarcerated. As a matter of fact, we know of 3 states in the western part of the country that predict what their penal needs, the number of prison cells they will need based on 3rd grade reading scores. So rather than do something about 3rd grade reading scores, we just continue to look at how many more prisons we need to build. In short, as I travel around the country, what I see is that the American dream that many of us have strived for and hoped for our families and our children and ourselves is becoming an American nightmare. That's why it's so important for companies to join the battle alongside nonprofit organizations and individuals. Corporate social responsibility has never been more needed than it is today. And I'm proud to say that at Ford, my organization, the Ford Motor Company Fund and Community Services, is a vital part of our business plan. We're not just an afterthought. We are actually part of our business plan. We're embedded in the company. Now, just to clarify, because a lot of people ask me this, I'm not with the Ford Foundation. They're based out of New York. They have a lot more money than I do. A lot more money. They were at one time affiliated with a company. Were started by a couple of family members, but disaffiliated, and we have no affiliation with them any longer. But we're proud of the progress we're making in our business and our commitment to philanthropy, even during difficult times. We know that we carry a large responsibility as an iconic automaker. We're a 107-year-old company that played a big role in helping to deliver the American dream, and we're still doing that today. Our founder, Henry Ford, is credited by many as the man who put the world on wheels. And even today, the Ford family continues to play a strong role in our company. Our executive chairman is Bill Ford, the great-grandson of Henry Ford, and he's leading the company and our efforts in the community right alongside Alan Mulally, our CEO. We take pride in the incredible and growing momentum behind the Ford brand, and that's partly due to the fact that, as many of you know, we did not take any government assistance when it was offered a year and a half ago. We continue to build on that momentum by delivering quality that our customers deserve and respect and expect, to deliver unsurpassed fuel economy, and work on products that provide safety to our customers and best-in-class smart technologies. But that's not what we're only about. We always like to say that at Ford, we're not just about building great cars and trucks, we're also about helping to build a better world. Our founder, Henry Ford, said it best: "A business that makes nothing but money is a poor business." He said that more than 100 years ago, yet today that philanthropic bent of the company continues. We believe at Ford that there is an obligation and a responsibility to not only create these quality products, but also to share good works and goodwill, especially here in Chicago, where we have been a part of the community for almost a century. We were established in 1949 to carry out that mission for the company. We're not an endowed fund, so that doesn't mean we have a pot of money that we can just draw on whenever we need it. We have to ask the company every year and make a business case for why they give us some funding. And I'm proud to say that even in the most difficult of times, they have continued to support these efforts. I'm also glad to say that as Ford returns to profitability, it is once again stepping up and committing to be an even greater force by increasing the resources that they've given us, and to be a greater force in communities across the country like Chicago. And we're taking a unique approach to this by providing more than just dollars to our community partners. We're providing people power in the form of volunteers, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. And I'm also glad to tell you that as we increase our resources, we're also going global with our efforts. We're committed to provide more funding for our philanthropic efforts, and the company has asked us to help in other areas around the world. Now, one of the questions that I generally get, although now that we're making money, I don't get it quite as much, is how can you guys afford to be able to give away money, right? I mean, I can't ride up in the executive elevator at Ford without another executive saying, "How much did you give away today, Vella?" And I have the same answer for everybody. We don't give away a nickel. We invest. We invest money in organizations and people and ideas that are helping to make the world a better place. Our top priority, as you heard, is education. We invest in education for a number of reasons, but primarily because we believe doing so creates win-win opportunities for everyone involved. The students get opportunities they might not otherwise have. Teachers and schools get much needed resources they need to do their jobs more effectively. And the community and the business world get more responsible, educated, and skilled citizens who are better prepared to make a positive impact on communities and businesses. So what does Ford get out of that? Well, we get a lot of things. For one, we believe that better educated people make better customers. Sometimes we even get these students to come and work for us. And when we do, we know we're getting better employees. So from our perspective, supporting endeavors like education is a business case that's easy to make. We also know that when people are aware of the good work a company does in their community, they tend to support that company more. People like to be associated with and buy products and services from companies and organizations that show that they care, especially when these companies support children and education. As an auto company, safety education is obviously a key initiative for us. We partner with the Governor's Highway Safety Association to develop a one-of-a-kind driver's training program called Driving Skills for Life, which basically focuses on teaching teenagers how to drive safely. For those of you who have a teenager, the first time you gave them the keys to the car and they drove out of the driveway, remember that feeling? It's not a great feeling, especially if they have a credit card with your name on it. So what we've done, we can't do anything about the credit cards, and a lot of other people are working on that, but we have created a program that teaches young drivers the skills that they need that they're not getting in driver education programs today. It's not just about passing the exam and getting a driver's license. It's really about learning how to be safe in a vehicle. And here in Illinois, we were asked to partner with the folks in Tazewell County. From March 2005 to July 2006, the county was devastated by 15 teenagers being killed in unrelated auto accidents. You know, the number one cause of death among teenagers in this country is automobile accidents, I'm sad to say. So this is an area where we spent a lot of time. So we worked with Tazewell County and the folks here in Illinois on this Teen Driving Skills for Life program that we have, and we're proud to say that there have been no deaths in 4 years and a 49% reduction around the state in terms of accidents after using the driving skills program. To date, literally thousands of teens have taken this course, and it's working. And if you have any teenage drivers you want to bring, we host an event in Chicago at Sox Park every summer, and we'd be happy to try and accommodate your new driver. But many of you know being a corporate citizen and a responsible business is more about than just providing money. We've made a major commitment back in 1990 to having employees volunteer their time. We give all of our employees the opportunity to take 16 hours of work time to volunteer in their community. Last year, we had about 20,000 employees who volunteered over 100,000 hours of time in 800 volunteer projects. That's roughly the equivalent of $2 million. But more importantly, it's a great source of satisfaction for our employees who work on the projects. And we have an employee volunteer corps at Ford, an employee volunteer corps that was started by Bill Ford in 2005, and it's based on the model that the Peace Corps used, where we put some financial resources together with our employee volunteers to make a difference in the communities. I've been the president of Ford Motor Company Fund for almost 4 years now, and during that time we've had to change the way we operate, obviously, because of the financial commitments that we've made in the past and the resources that we have that haven't been as much as we have in the past. We needed to work smarter and be more than just a provider of dollars. But at the same time, our mission of driving a brighter future hasn't changed. We're not funding large capital campaigns as we have in the past. We're focusing more on community and grassroots efforts. Quite frankly, our vision is to have Ford be recognized as a global leader in helping build a better world wherever we do business. And we're doing that in partnership with our dealers. Going forward, our programs need to meet 3 very important criteria. They must be Ford branded so that customers know they're being delivered by Ford. They're not just generic check writing, but relationship building partnerships that make a difference. They must be replicable. You have to be able to do it more than once to prove it works. And they have to be similar in nature as we go around the country. So as we always say in our grant meetings, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So we're working really hard on that. So this is our One Ford approach to community relations, whether we're delivering programs on the south side of Chicago or in a village in India. People need to know it's coming from Ford. And they must make a measurable impact on the community, because if you can't measure what you're doing, you'll never know if you're successful. So what are we doing here in Chicago, which is probably what most of you came here to hear about? Well, in late 2007, we launched an initiative here that we have now in 8 cities and that we're expanding to 25 markets, and we call it Operation Goodwill. The biggest difference about this program is it is a grassroots approach to community relations. It involves our dealers because they are the face of Ford in this community. Not one of you will ever buy a car from Ford Motor Company. You will buy it from our dealers, so it's very important that they're involved. So again, I'd like to show you just a very short video of an ad that we're running here in this market that gives you a little bit of an idea of what we're doing here.
Here in Chicago, we're proud to support our community in many ways, including partnering with JDRF in their dedication to cure juvenile diabetes and supporting Chicago's future with after-school matters and driving skills for life. We've invested more money in more communities in our 106-year history than any other corporation in our industry. Join your Chicago Ford dealers for the 31st annual Ron Santo Walk to Cure Diabetes. We're Ford Motor Company and your Chicago Ford dealers. Drive one.
Okay, so what we're doing here is our goal is to drive a brighter future in the community, and Operation Goodwill helps us do that. We target our philanthropy in these cities to have maximum impact. And like I said earlier, we work very closely with our local dealers and local community organizations to determine what's really needed and what the issues are, and then we go after it. In Chicago, we're working with our key partners to make a difference. We sponsor Shed Discount Days, promote biking through the Active Transportation Alliance. We support families touched by cancer at the Jennifer S. Fallick Support Center and ensure that kids are kept active through Camp Invention and after-school matters. Well, I wish I could mention all of the organizations that we support because their work is so important, but there are a couple that I want to highlight. Obviously, you saw from the ad that we're very involved in juvenile diabetes. Our dealer sponsors families in their communities and have a child with diabetes. They personally help to raise money for a cure and then walk with them at one of the annual JDRF walks. Our work on this front is also complemented by an organization we fund called Project SNAP, a national nonprofit organization that Ford brought to the cause. I talked about education being a critical component of our strategy. 2 years ago, as some of you know, we joined with an amazing group of neighborhood residents, civic leaders, and ambitious educators in the North Lawndale community to transform the old Sears and Roebuck powerhouse into a LEED-certified Shaw Technology and Learning Center, now the home of Powerhouse High. We have a few students from Powerhouse High today. The Powerhouse High is the charter school which is modeled after the innovation-based and highly successful Henry Ford Academy in Dearborn, Michigan. So we now have 4 Henry Ford Academies around the country, one in Detroit, one in Dearborn, one in Chicago, and one in San Antonio. And I visited there yesterday, and I'd like the students who are here today to stand up for just a second and be recognized. So they come to school every day. They have to, some of them come, they were telling me they come from as far as 35, 40 minutes away every day to come to school. Those in the green shirts are freshmen or sophomores, correct? And the blue shirts, you're upper class, so you'd be juniors because they'll be the first graduating class next year. And I was real impressed. I thought about the high school that I went to, and it was basically a cookie-cutter high school with some classrooms, and they have taken the old Powerhouse building and incorporated parts of it. So you see the conveyor belts going over, that are overhead as they're in the classrooms. So thank you very much for being here today. They're working on some really cool stuff there. I wish I could have stayed more in the technology class and figured out all that stuff you guys were doing with those Macs because it looked pretty cool, but I'm still trying to post pictures to Facebook. So when I get to that, I'll help you. So thank you for coming today and for all your hard work and dedication. It's really nice to, you read all the things in the paper about kids who aren't, applying themselves in school today, and obviously the gang situation in some of the neighborhoods and the dropout rates and things. But it really heartens me when I go to schools like Powerhouse High and see these kids working this hard and staying after, and schools that are safe and clean and, just have all the things that we take for granted. It really is exciting. I just can't say enough about the kids there. They were really terrific to spend some time with yesterday. We also try to work with the organizations that we fund to partner together. So, for example, one of our Powerhouse High students was selected by the Field Museum to participate in a summer environmental internship funded by Ford. The internship focused on the Calumet area on the south side of the city where our plants are located and where nature and industry truly coexist. Because this area is so unique, Ford has also provided the city of Chicago with a grant to build the Ford Calumet Environmental Center. which will be a tremendous resource, we hope, for the community and for the entire Chicago area. This will truly be a destination place and a building like no other. I encourage you to learn more about the center and how you can get involved. So, once again, you might ask, why is an auto company doing all this in Chicago? Again, not only is it the right thing to do, but it makes good business sense. Our customer research shows that employees, when they're made aware of the work that we're doing in communities like Chicago and really all over the country, think more of our brand, think more of our management, think more of our products, and are more likely to consider a Ford product. So it's very important for us to make that business case so we can continue to get the resources that we need from our company. Good companies today need to be successful on Wall Street. That's pretty obvious. But they also need to be successful on Main Street, and that requires commitment. Bill Ford often reminds us that a good company delivers excellent products and services, but a great company delivers excellent products and services and strives to make the world a better place. And with the challenges that we face in our communities and across our nation today, it's not just about what Ford's doing or what our nonprofit partners are doing. It's really about what every single person in the community is doing. And each and every one of you, as individuals, as business people, people who manage resources, I think have a responsibility to step up at a really critical time in this nation's history, because I think it's going to really decide what kind of a country we're going to be 20 years from now, and what opportunities our children and our grandchildren are going to have. And are they going to have the same opportunities to live the American dream that we have tried to support at Ford, and that I know that all of you would like to have for your families? We're proud of the organizations we fund because we know together we can help drive a brighter future in Chicago and a brighter future for many of the young people that we touch through our programs. I'll leave you with one final thought. It's a quote from Winston Churchill, which I love. "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." When times are tough, as they have been the last couple of years, it's more important than ever for all of us to pull together and deliver the kind of services and needs that meet the needs of the community that are out there today. Thank you today for being very patient and listening. And don't forget, if you see Casey Vella, you have to tell her dad was long but not boring.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, if you have questions, thank you. These are on the table. Okay, question from Tom Hoyt. Kaplan Higher Education is his affiliation. What would you like to see other companies do to get involved?
First of all, in terms of full disclosure, Tom Hoyt used to work for me at Ford, work with me at Ford, and also worked with me at Channel 2, and we had dinner last night, and he didn't buy. So other companies could start by picking up tabs at dinner. That would be a good start. I think other companies really have to, the first thing is it has to be part of your business. It can't be an afterthought. It can't be, the rest of the business is in here and, this community relations activity is out in the hall. It's everybody's responsibility as an organization. Every enterprise has a responsibility, just like they do have a responsibility to employees and to shareholders and to customers and dealers and franchisees and suppliers. They have a responsibility to the communities, because if we don't have a sustainable community, we don't have sustainable business models. None of us do. So I think they can get involved by dedicating some resources, by taking a leadership position in their company, and making it okay to be out on a work day working in the community alongside your neighbors and your customers as employees and doing the kind of work that needs to get done.
Okay. Tom Goltz has this question. He's from the University of Illinois at Chicago. Does the Ford Foundation partner with any universities to make education more accessible to prospective students? And if so, how do you choose these university partnerships?
That's an excellent question. We do partner with a number of universities. We have a list of universities, obviously, number one, that we target to help improve the pipeline of students that we're getting in certain engineering fields where we're lacking and that kind of thing. We also have a Ford Community Challenge grant program that we do every year, where we ask universities to submit proposals where they have to identify a need in their community, such as hunger or transportation or whatever it is. And then the universities work with a nonprofit partner to write a proposal on how they are going to meet that need in their community by using this funding. It has to be a student-led program, it has to have faculty involvement, and we give grants up to $50,000. So to give you an example, one of the proposals we got a couple of years ago was from Ohio State University. They identified the need that low-income folks could not get to their doctor appointments because they didn't have a mode of transportation to get there, a sustainable mode of transportation to get there. So what the students designed was they designed a electric vehicle that ran partly on electric and partly on solar, and they used the money to design it, and they donated it to a nonprofit, and they use that vehicle today to drive people who don't have a way to get to a food bank or the health center to get there, and it costs them, literally nothing for fuel. So that's the kind of partnership that is driving some of what we're doing in education. We have a Ford Partnership for Advanced Studies program where we have created curriculum for high school students, and hopefully we'll carry on some of that into colleges. So we're looking for partners who have innovative and sustainable ideas that we can use in engaging young people in solving the critical needs of our communities today and for the future.
We have a few more here. This is similar questions from a couple of people, Samira Ali and some others. As you expand into global markets, will you focus on education and similar things that you're doing here in the States, or will you tailor to specific communities' other needs?
Another great question, because one of the questions I got when I went to the Ford Board of Directors meeting and we talked about allocating resources on a global basis, I almost got that look of, do you really know what you're doing? Because we've never really done this on a global basis before, so how are you going to figure that out? So there's a two-part answer. One is we have three main areas on a global basis that we will focus our resources on. Hunger, education, and quite frankly, the third one is water. Because when you go outside of the U.S., one of the biggest issues is water. And I think I was talking about this beforehand with a couple of the folks during the reception, and water's becoming a big issue. So all of our programs around the world, 80% of our, and this is the second part of it, 80% of our resources will go against those three major buckets of hunger, water, and education. And then in each area where you go, there's going to be, it's the 80-20 rule. There'll be 20% of our resources will be allocated. There'll be certain needs in each of those countries that we'll have to meet, but they'll probably be different. They may be different in a more developed country than they are in another. We just had a Global Week of Caring program where we had 20,000 of our employees volunteer in a 1-week period around the world, and our dealers, and the projects were amazing. In some cases, there was one dealership in Africa that actually went out with the local townspeople and drilled a well because they didn't have water. So that was a very specific need, and that might not, in a Western European country, you probably don't have that same need. So the main issues will be the same, but we will allow some resources to be allocated on an as-needed basis to meet global or local issues.
All right, this one comes from Brenda Thompson of the Branch Family Institute, which focuses on domestic violence, not-for-profit. With so many competing needs, how does the Ford Motor Fund decide on priorities?
Well, again, we have a grants review meeting once a month where we talk about what the priorities are. We meet with our Board of Trustees a couple times a year to talk about that. But really, our priorities, when you start to say these are the 3 or 4 things we're about, which you heard in my remarks, which are, education, obviously meeting basic community need, it has to fall into one automotive safety. It has to fall into one of those buckets first. There's a lot of things that we don't do. We don't do fundraisers for individuals. We don't do a lot in the healthcare field. We do very targeted approach when it comes to environment, because we have another part of the company that's run by Sue Siskey, our Group Vice President for Sustainability, that manages those programs. So we really have to focus what we're working on, because if we don't, we'll kind of be all over the map and we won't really move the needle on anything. There's that old saying about you'll be a mile wide and an inch deep. We need to be a mile wide and a mile deep. And we need to find ways to do that. And part of it, quite frankly, part of an allocation of resources comes based on the leadership of organizations that we work with. I spent yesterday visiting with some of our partners here in town because I had heard about the great passion they have in their organizations. And, I don't think that any organization really does really, really, really great work unless you have leadership that's passionate about what they're doing. So we look to our partners to help us with that. We don't have all the answers, but we allocate resources very carefully and in a very targeted manner. And as I said earlier, here in Chicago, we're asking our dealers to help us with that to make sure we get the equation right.
All right, and our last question here is from Joyce Saxon, who's a board member of the City Club of Chicago. Joyce asks, I know this is not your field, but what does corporate think will be the best-selling 2011 model?
Well, that's actually an easy one, because our F-Series pickup truck has been the best-selling vehicle on the planet, as Alan Mullally likes to say, on the planet. Did you hear that? On the planet. That's exactly how he says it. For about 28 years, 29 years now. We sell in a good year about 900,000 F-Series. But I have to tell you, and I know, I'm a Ford guy, and, they're signing my paycheck. We have great products in our lineup. We have maybe the best product lineup that I have seen in the time that I have been at Ford. We have a new Explorer coming out. We have a new Edge with the MyTouch system and all the high-tech stuff where, you can tell it to dial home, call home, make pizza, whatever you want it to do, it does. I still have to figure out how to use all that stuff. But certainly, from a big picture perspective, our market is still pretty soft. We're still selling at an annual rate of about a little under 11 million units a year. Just to give you an idea, 4 years ago it was 17 million units as an industry. So we've got a long way to go. A lot of that has to do with unemployment. So I'm betting on the Lions and the F-150.
All right, we have a couple of tokens of appreciation for you. First, the City Club mug.
Thank you.
That was funny. He said a mug for a mug, in case you didn't hear that. The City Club of Chicago history.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And a complimentary one-year membership in the City Club of Chicago. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.